Okay, good
Sorry,
afternoon.
didn't work.
It is 5:41. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the City of Laredo Enhancement Services Subcommittee, which was Bond Referendum Enhancement Services, here at the Parks and Recs office. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We continue the process of listening to the different areas that we will be considering as part of a possible bond package. At this time, we'll have roll call.
In 1 second. Sorry.
That's
Okay, let me see, Mr. Tony Acid.
I am here.
Junior, present. Mr. Adrian Zapata, not present currently. Ms. Trisha Cortez on the phone.
I'm on the call, Mr. Valdez, I'm about 3 minutes away.
I'll put a half a check mark. Present. No, you're good, you're good.
Too late, you missed it.
Mr. Pete Science. Mr. Pete Science, not present currently. Fernando Baldasso, not present. Mr. Justin Heather.
Present.
Present. Viviana Frank, present. You have a quorum. We'll go with
Thank
the
you,
quorum.
thank you, Mr. Orlez. We'll move on to public
Oh.
comments. Is there any public comments?
Not that we know of.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to discussion with possible on the proposed enhancement bond package presentation.
So, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna have Mr. JJ Gomez present the water park along with, well, we have Mr. JJ Gomez. Everyone around the room, if you all wanna
I
introduce
was gonna
yourself.
say, we have some guests that haven't been here last time, if I can ask you all to introduce
Yes,
yourself.
Aileen Ramos, Convention and Visitors Bureau Director.
John Porter, Environmental and Solid Waste Director.
Jesus Esparza with the City of Laredo Budget Department.
JJ Gomez, City of Laredo Parks Director.
Anita Stanley, Parks and Recreation Assistant Director.
So at this time, we would like to introduce the project for, the water park. And, who's gonna take the lead, JJ, or?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here. I know we met last week. Thank you for your attention and last week. It was a really good meeting. We're going to, with the water park, we have Mr. Johnny Blevins, a consultant that we hired, was it 4 years ago, must have been 3 years ago?
Yeah,
Eileen?
several years ago.
Eileen has been also spearheading this as well. So we met with him in a convention a couple of weeks ago, shared some ideas. We knew we were gonna come before you all to on what the council has requested for a possible water park site. All right, as far as the site, we already have the acreage, which will be at the Buena Vista Sports Complex. We have right now at the Buena Vista Sports Complex, the city acquired 200 acres. 150 acres is currently being used for phase one. Phase one, which has the 10 baseball, softball fields and 2 multi-purpose fields. If approved, the water park will be right adjacent to that, and it will kind of serve as 2 purposes because the multi-purpose, the Buena Vista Sports Complex is to attack the big tournaments, the tourism, heads and beds, and Eileen can share more on that. We want to bring in all those people at the same time can take advantage of the water park, proposed water park. So Mr. Blevins has come up with a presentation, as far as the pros, how much the maintenance operation of it, what will be the cost of a possible water park. Again, this has not gone to the voters, just to give you a little bit of history of it. It has not gone to the voters, if I'm not mistaken. But it is something that the council has been proposing for some years back. Mr. Valdez, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I mean, they had when we created the, Buena Vista has been on and off, everyone's discussion on council since 2000 when I was there. But in recent times, with the Buena Vista Sports Complex, I know we tried to get the sports field, it was gonna be included in it. But they said, let's create more fields, and so they did away with it at that time. The monies that they were going to allocate for that, I think was 12-13 million.
Right.
They put it into the fields that were there, right, or the ones that are proposed and that are being constructed right now.
Right.
Fast forward, months later, council said, you know what, we really just need to do it. And so they had voted amongst themselves and said, we need to do this, so let's figure it out. and we kind of move forward months later, it's like, okay, well, let's see if maybe the voters will support this, right? Cause council's supporting it, but let's see if the voters will support it, and so that's why it's really coming before this committee and seeing what your opinions are, and then we'll get the opinion of the bigger committee.
And if I may, we also, in the last 10 years, we've surveyed the visitor consistently, and water park is one of the things that they all mention. There were always two things, outlet and water park, and so we got the outlets. Now we're just missing the water park. And so we know that it can be an attraction, as JJ mentioned. The location is key, having it next to the sports complex, where we'll have sports tournaments coming in, having it next door. It will allow for people that are not playing at the time to have something to do while they're there in the venue. So we're
Kind of the idea
hopeful.
behind it.
Yeah.
So, Johnny, can you hear us, right? Can you-
Yes, sir.
Okay,
JJ,
good.
Let's let the record show that Tricia has joined us
In
on
person.
the play. Thank you.
Right.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
Spirit, spirit.
I wanna thank Johnny for joining us and taking time out of their busy schedule, just to hear his presentation, and, we'll, once we have any questions towards the end, he'll be more than glad to, answer the questions. So, Johnny, if you wanna get started, you wanna share your screen, or?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen. I'll take just 1 second to say it's a
ahead.
pleasure to be here, guys. Wanted to just give a background about who we are, what we're up to, and then also like JJ and everyone had said, we had come up 2 or 3 years ago, and during this process, talking about the sports fields and the water park, and then things have kind of put on hold with the water park to go through the sports fields, and so what I want to do this evening, I love having discussion a little bit more, but I want to spend just a few minutes going through kind of who we are, because some of you guys don't know who we are, and then get to the layout that we've kind of come up with through discussion with some of the team and some of our team at Whitewater and those kind of things, to show how could we best utilize those the property there that's beside the ball fields, and then also some of the costs related to building this, and then also maintaining that, and then really just want to get your questions and anything that I can do to help you guys as you prepare to talk to the rest of the committee. So let me see if I can share my other screen.
Johnny, I don't know if it would be possible, before of you sharing, if you can send it to us and maybe we can print some copies for the committee, so they can look at it at the same time? Or is
I
it
can
too-
sure do whatever. I tried to send it to Jay, and it came back. I don't know if it's too big,
It might have been
but I
Okay.
can sure email it as well. It's
I can see it.
No, but eventually, como quiera, we'll get hard
We'll
copies.
get you on a hard
We'll
copy.
get the
Okay.
packets.
Yeah,
we'll get him a hard copy later, but
That's fine.
So you have it for your.
There's not a lot of detail in this, other than just giving you guys the idea of what we're looking at, and then I would love to get back with you, and Eileen, I'll email you a detail of any answers or questions that they have, so I can give them more specific, if that's okay. I'll email that as a follow-up.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna flip through this relatively quickly. I know no one likes to have a big presentation for hours and hours, so just a few minutes here going through water parks and our background, so you know kind of who we are. Is this, do you still see me, or do you see the presentation?
Both.
you can see you and the presentation.
Okay, I would love to go to the next slide here. Okay, there we go. Some of this I'm gonna skip. Okay, to give you an idea, we built our first water park a little over 20 years ago in a small town called Canton, Texas. Population of 5,000 people, a little under 5,000. Now there's some surrounding areas and things like that, but just so you guys get a vision of what could happen, what could it look like in Laredo. The park that we have there, we still operate. I'm sitting in it right now. We run around 150,000 people a year in a water park that has a town that it sits in a population of less than 5,000 people. People travel great distances. We say about an hour to 90 minutes is a good travel time for a water park about the size we're talking about there. So if you just think about the population that you have on both sides of the border, and the people that can come in and spend money in Laredo, coming in from those outside cities, I mean, that's what we really look at. I've been on economic development boards, and currently serve with Eileen on Texas Trip Association Travel Alliance. You know, tourism and travel is such a great economic build for anybody's community. Having people come in during the day, spend that money, stay a night, eat at restaurants, and a water park and the sports fields are just great complexes for that. Get to this next. Okay, well, we want to make sure with our company and working with anybody that we have, we're providing a top-notch, great experience for families. We want to represent the cities we serve, whether it's privately held or a water park that a city owns or something like that. We want to make sure that we're providing the best experience. But also one of the reasons we started doing what we're doing at all is we wanted to create a great work environment for people. We wanted students and folks that are learning how, or having a job, mostly seasonal. There are some great full-time jobs and great careers in amusement, of course. But if we were to hire 130 to 160 people to work at this water park, most of them are seasonal. And part of what we started as a whole is to do this so we could train people how to work well, how to interact with people, how to look people in their eyes, how to have job skills that will carry them to the next place in life, whether it's going off to school, going off into the job market. Our company, we want to make sure that we are creating great opportunities for them to learn how to work and be successful going forward. So we get really excited about that and that leadership opportunity. We want to exceed guest expectations, and we want to smile and put other people first. And when you do that, and those families come in and to see that and the excitement that you're going to get on social media and in the different things that the city of Laredo providing this for your community, very exciting. So don't want to give you a whole lot of this. I want to get to y'all's layout and the pricing. But like I said, we've been doing this for over 20 years, and we work with the ones that we own still currently personally, and then cities and private owners all over the country and Puerto Rico. We have a lot of relationships with the design, the development, the suppliers that we need to provide slides for the properties as well to get great pricing. Let's see some of the projects that we're doing. We have 4 water parks there in El Paso. We worked with the cities, the designers, the developers to get the project that we're wanting and also get that in a way that we're going to serve folks that we need to serve. Some of the examples of some of the key elements that we're going to be presenting for your facility, definitely a wave pool. Folks love the wave pool. There's not a beach there for Laredo to come to and folks in that area to go to. So having that beach, having those waves. It's also something that we in the water park industry call a people eater. We can put a lot of folks in there. They can have a great time. We can have concerts on the backstage. We can have events and activities. And so definitely have to have a wave pool. We have planned 2 slide towers initially with multiple slides coming off of it with room for 2 more as we continue to grow. We love to set a base foundation of what a water park needs to supply the needs for the community, but have room to grow and continue to see what it is we need and not spend all the money at one time and then continue to grow into that as we do it. As you can see, folks of all ages, shapes. Some of the parks that we own or operate or build, we've got wave pools. You definitely want a large kid/family structure, so you can incorporate activities for everyone. And you've got little ones, you've got parents involving that with them, and then you've got some high thrill for some of your teens and tweens as they're coming through your park as well. So there's some things that we're wanting to incorporate, and you'll see your layout that we put out for Laredo. And I love to have a design charrette where we talk about on the whiteboard or different things around the board, what are the things that you guys would look for? What do you think the folks in the city would look for? But this right now is the working plan of the property that you guys have right beside the baseball fields. JJ, you can explain that better, how that fits in conjunction if everyone's not familiar with that. But the baseball fields are a little bit to the bottom and to the left.
Right.
Parking lots there behind the wave pool. So as you enter in the main area of the water park, right here, you've got the main entrance with the thicket buildings and main food court. Got a really cool courtyard. We've got some shade, things like that. Coming over to this side, down the sidewalk, a great wave pool, stage in the back. And then we have 2 slide towers that I would recommend that we would have the first one phase 1, and then we're gonna come back here and have another one phase 2. But look, we've got opportunity for further development on this side, further development of water slides on this side. And what we would do is plan to see, okay, who are our guests? What are our age groups? What are we missing? What do we like? How do we develop what you have to work even more? And of course, River is a must-have at a water park for all ages, kids, adults, grandparents. Love to be in that lazy river. You can float around and you get a chance to see everything going on around the park in every direction, but also get a chance just to relax and chill. And then inside that is a very large kid structure with multiple slides. That slide tower alone would have 8 to 10 slides on it, and then we would have another 12 slides or so in the park in phase 1. Off to the side, we could have a little toddler area with very small slides and very little area of water. So you've got for toddlers, teens and tweens, or little ones, lazy river for everyone, wave pool for everyone, and then exciting slide towers for individual rides and also family. JJ, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see it.
Yeah,
Okay, we can
Yes,
see it, okay.
thank you, JJ.
and just a quick comment,
Yes.
what John is mentioning of the future development, it is a common practice for water parks to have elements added in a further stage,
The
so.
phase 2 or
yeah.
the growth of the park eventually once it's.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, we would love to, what you want to do is build what we want to start off with, make sure you've got something for everyone, but then that gives you room inside our footprint that you don't spend it all up front. We make some money as we go. We begin to get that to where it's hopefully as self-sufficient or money producing as possible. We've got some all over the place that are self-producing, actually pay for themselves and make a little, and then we've got some that people go, no, we want it as an amenity and we want to keep the prices here. And so it's just barely paid for itself, or maybe even there's a planned loss. I never like to operate at a planned loss. That is just not in my thinking. But cities have a chance to do what they want to do, and so it depends on what your goals and objectives are for that as well. So then you're actually able to come in and then add to it as you go. So I'll pause there. I don't want to be the guy talking all the time, but I'd love to have. I'll also give you an idea real quick. From a cost standpoint, to build that phase 1 in this time frame that we're talking about, wave pool, 2 very nice slide towers with multiple slides, very nice kids area, lazy river, restrooms, kitchen, things like that. It's like a car. You can go buy a car and you say, I'm going to buy a $25,000 car. You can get that same car and it's a $35,000 car, depending on what you want to put in it. So please take that into consideration. But a $15 to $18 million range would be very workable. And then, of course, we could always spend more than that if we go, oh, we really want to add this, or let's do that. But that gives you a very, very nice park since you already have the property. And then, of course, infrastructure is probably coming right up to that. So that is the park itself and all the elements that you would need to do that. Ongoing operation on a park like this, again, a little bit of vary because I don't want to just pull out of the hat, but we have very detailed on water parks that we operate and own this same size. Anywhere from $3.5 to $4 to $4.5 million a year is the operation expense of this, including setting aside for maintenance and off-season maintenance and activities and those kind of things. In this park, not year 1, maybe not year 2, but this size park with this type element should be one that should generate the revenue to cover that as well. If you look at a water park like El Paso, which we were not involved in design or build of the El Paso water parks, they asked us to come in and open them and operate them, and we do, and we operate them, but they built very, very small kind of different districts wanted their own water park, I would have directed them in a much different area and said, hey, let's don't spend $8 or $9 million per water park in 4 different areas of El Paso. Let's build one in the middle for 15 or 16 million, save the money, and then make that a money-making water park. What they have are 4 city amenities that probably will never make money because of how they chose to do that. This is a water park that actually could do well and do well for a city. So with that said, and just thrown out there, would love to entertain questions, want to know kind of what's on your mind, how can I get back to you with more details or what you're looking for as you guys contemplate this process.
Can I ask a question just on, to clarify, because maybe I didn't understand. Are you suggesting a public-private partnership with the city where you're building and operating?
What I'm doing is bringing information for you guys based off what you said. We're not coming in to build a park for us or a public-private. We've done a lot of those, and I own really all the water parks I want to own. What I'm trying to do is find you the best
Model.
Oops, right, you lost him.
Yeah, so
He froze.
at the point where
you
we,
can do. But what I want to do is just give you the information to see if you guys want one.
yeah, so at the point that we had contracted, where we were back 2-3 years ago, is the first step was to contract a consultant that would guide us in how do we do this, because it's the first time we've
What's the name of the consultancy?
P23.
P23?
P23
Yes.
consultant.
And so, and how do I know P23 Consulting? Because as Johnny said, we serve together in the
Oh,
board
okay,
of
sure.
Texas Travel Alliance. And so in talking, we did an RFP and they came up as the option for becoming a consultant. And the idea was for them to guide us in how do we start? How do we do this? What does a water park look like next to a sports complex? And from there, the next step was to figure out the funding and the construction and other steps. But this was like the very first step in the process of how does this work and what are the options? And as he said, for us not to do the same mistakes as other communities, we wanted to make sure we were really prepared from the get-go.
Any other questions?
I had a question. Water consumption and use for a facility like this
Absolutely.
is like, can you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. So the water volume of this facility as it's drawn would be approximately 600,000 to 700,000 gallons to fill. And then we're a full-blown filtration system. So we're recirculating, we're not refilling. You know, a lot of people may not, they just see this and say a huge consumption. We're going to lose about 1 inch a day in splash and evaporation. So we're refilling that. And then as we backwash once a week or so, we're going to lose some water there, a couple thousand gallons, and then we're going to be refilling that. And so the consumption, I could definitely get you details on what an average consumption is on those kind of, on these size facilities. And there are also water consumption savings opportunities where you could have a high rate sand filter, which is like been in use for years and years and years. And when you're ready to clean it, you turn it backwards into backwash, and you're blowing the water and the dirt and stuff off of your filters. And you're going to lose a certain amount of gallons. But there's also new filters in the systems that are called defenders, which we're putting in a lot of places. And the backwash to that is about 1/10 of the amount. And so there's some water savings. They do cost more up front, but the ongoing is a nice savings. But we're not filling, we're using, park this size, I'm gonna say we would probably use 4 million gallons a year. Depending on heat and rain and those kind of things, but that's a good average.
And the 1 inch a day, that is based off of, I guess, which kind of communities, I mean, it's pretty hot here. And
Yeah, it's kind of the average, there's a certified pool operator manual, and that's kind of the United States wide average of 1 inch to 1.5 inches a day for evaporation and splash. Guests getting in, getting out, what's in my swimsuit, what I got in my pockets and dripped across the parking lot, you know, the things like that. And so it's an average, so it could be less, it could be more depending on the heat of the summer and how busy we are and those kind of things too.
And just, I wanna go back to your, question, Vienna, the numbers that, he gave us, a 15 to 18 million range, that's for the construction, regardless of if the city does it or, a partner.
And this plan is how much?
This is the 15 to 18 million,
This is-
Turnkey,
And
yeah,
everything?
so,
with everything, including what he mentioned, wave pool, 2 slides, and correct me if
Lazy
I'm wrong,
river.
yeah,
We're putting
Lazy
that in.
River.
Wave pool, lazy river, kids area, and 2 of the slide towers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have room for 2 of the additional slide towers, and of course, that does include, kitchen, restroom, those kind of things.
Mhm.
and so, is this a facility that they're gonna manage? Cause he was saying.
That
he's
a
gonna-
management company, I mean,
Like
they
them.
manage, so they
So
definitely could be,
But it's similar to the arena where you have a management, the
Exactly.
city owns the arena, but you have a management company that runs the day-to-day operations, including the entertainment. Is this a similar,
it could
Possibly-
be a
look at that as one
possibility,
possibility,
a
yes.
similar.
similar
Concept,
concept?
And
yes.
so-
That's what they do
Exactly.
with,
There's different
It is,
management companies, but yes, they do that, and so 3.5 to 4.5 million is the ongoing operation, including maintenance and the off-season activities.
Well, what about, replacement costs and all of that, is that figured into that?
Is
That
the,
would be, repairs and replacement costs would be built into that 3.5, 4.5 million. Additions like the next slide tower, things like that, would not be. And
Okay.
of course, it would depend on what are our needs. I mean, I would look at it as a personal investment. If we think we're gonna do 80,000 people a year and we're doing 140, the money would be there to add something new, or we could look at what do we need to add, things like that. If we think we're doing 80 and we're doing 75, well, we may have what we need there and we don't add something major to it, we do something different. And so that does take care of maintenance and motors and replacements and things like that, but not an addition of a
So
$2
debt,
million slide tower.
debt, bond debt is included, I mean, if it's not, well, I don't know how much bond, if debt, that would be, I guess, the full amount.
for the 15
And that
to
would
18?
cover, the 4.5 million would cover bond debt and, anyways, yeah. Is that part of the 4.5 million? Like, in other words,
The
Like your
operation.
debt service?
The operation?
just operation, no no debt, so so the income that comes in doesn't cover the debt.
I see. Okay.
The income, so,
No, I'm
the
asking-
revenue?
The revenue is 4.5 million, right?
No, the ongoing
No.
operation costs
Is 4.5
is
million.
4.5 million. So the cost of operating the water park for the whole year, including off-season operation, maintenance, all that good stuff, is 3.5 to 4.5. What's not included in that, either in the 15 to 18 million or the 3 to 4.5, is the expansion. So it is recommended, and it's a common practice in water parks, that in year 2 or 3, you expand, you add something to the park. And so that's what Johnny was saying, you have 2 areas on the top where it's potential expansion area, that's not included, but it is also a common practice to see, okay, how is the park behaving, how many people we're getting, what type of people are we getting, so depending on that informs or determines what type of expansion, if needed, is gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, Vince.
No, my question was in terms of the revenues, like, so the revenues that would come in from, I guess, the tickets,
The revenue
The
will come
value.
from the
Admission
tickets
from
and
admission.
From
admission.
the admission.
Uh-huh.
Food, admission,
Uh-huh,
And all of that.
rentals.
yes.
Whatever.
Mhm.
Is enough to cover all of this plus
Do we have
debt?
You're
estimated
saying like the
cost of
ROI,
revenues?
like the ROI, the return on investment?
I don't know, Johnny,
No, I'm-
was there any,
just-
calculation on potential ticket cost?
Income, oh, like income,
So,
Yes. that's
estimated
yeah,
income and.
great question. What's the ROI on this, or how would it pay for itself, those kind of things, great question.
Yeah.
So, what I would need to do there is really, that's where, you guys brought me in a couple years ago, we just didn't get to that point because it went more to the baseball, the sports complex. So what we need to do is see, okay, what is it that we are actually going to build? This is a thought and a presentation of what I would expect, but then we can look at it and go, okay, this is what I have, so now I get to price my tickets, season passes, I do the deep dive on what's the population around there,
Right now we don't know.
what are your guys' goals of, are we wanting to keep it at a accessible lower amount for certain folks, or are we wanting to have it, a straight up water park operation, and here's the ticket prices. So that would allow me to then say, okay, I think we're going to be making $4.5–5 million a year. It looks like we're going to be making $3 million a year. We're going to have a $500,000 deficit every year. But I would need to know the details of, okay, is this what we're wanting to do before we start doing a lot of calculations and things like that. As an example, the city of Baytown. They have a very similar sized water park. We have just recently taken that over for the management for them because it was being operated in a way that wasn't making money. We're going to get it to a spot to where it is not costing the city any money at all within 3 years. And so everything from a revenue standpoint would cover all of their expenses because I know we can do that. So depending on what we have to work with, can the water park facilitate paying for itself? One this size absolutely could. If you wanted to build one like they did in El Paso, I would say it won't because ticket prices are just going to be too low. Now, if you said, hey, we want to build this water park, but we don't want tickets over $10, then I will tell you it won't pay for itself. So that's kind of a discussion that we can develop together as we know what it is we want to build, and then I can help with pricing and plans and marketing plans and all those kind of things.
Are you all managing or
Yeah.
operating any similar parks in South Texas? Let's just say south of San Antonio?
The one in Baytown that we just took over, which is just outside of Houston, and then I have one in Canton, Texas, which is central East Texas, same size.
I was looking
I
for
did the
something more in our
Typhoon, Texas
region.
water park,
Yeah.
which is in Houston. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Which one?
That's a much Typhoon, Texas. It's a much bigger park. It's about a $60 million park, much bigger, but it is down in the South Texas area.
Typhoon.
Not real South
Not
Texas.
real South.
Southish.
That was my question, yeah, just so there's any, no.
Comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have calculations yet in terms of estimated attendance and income or ticket pricing, correct? Just wanna make sure.
Correct. That would be more of a feasibility study plan that we would need to do once we know what direction you're kind of leaning and if you want to continue that discussion kind of thing.
Now, my question is really sort of, obviously we have a consultant here, and it's not like John wants to own it anymore, but have we gone to like an RFP or anything like that to see if a private sector actor wants to build a private park as opposed to a public park? No.
We've done it throughout the years, even when I was on council, we did it 2 or 3 times, no one would ever did.
Why?
And so-
Like, what would, just, what
They
was it?
probably, I would say misunderstanding the market, like a lot of,
Well, we've even offered land,
yeah.
and no one would bid on it.
Yeah, and I guess that was my question, because we're probably referring to something like, well, how does this compare to the commercially branded splash towns, right?
Glitter bombs.
Yeah, you know, obviously this is a municipal type of facility, but
How would you rate, huh?
Is it comparable, I guess, is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, how would you compare to
As far
the,
as size and ticket price, things like that, is that what you're thinking?
yes, sir.
Amenities on it or
Okay.
whatever?
Yeah, so, Splash Town in the Houston area and then Typhoon, Texas, which is in Katy, they will be larger than this, but that's also, those are in the $50 to $80 million build out. So completely different. Their
Well, we need to
pricing
know,
is-
right? I mean,
The pricing for a ticket there is probably closer to the $49 range, but I would expect this one to be closer to the $29 to $27.99, something like that from a pricing standpoint for this size park. It would have something for everyone, but it wouldn't have everything for everyone, if that makes sense.
thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I just wanna emphasize that, I know the last time, from what I remember, that council said, let's put this back on, cause again, I'll tell you from my personal view, when I was on council, we were always trying to figure out, will it break even, will it make money? And the answer was always no, right? And so, recently, council said, and I wanna say this is how they went, don't call me word for word, but what they said was, as an amenity for the community, as an attraction for tourism, we know it's not gonna make money, but we need to have one. And so we're willing to try not to lose a lot of money,
Minimize.
but to offer this for the community. So that's kind of where they said, we wanna move forward with this. Cause again, if we were looking at it, well, we need to make money, now we're not gonna do it. That's why we never did it. The city, back in the day.
And that's why 2 years ago, we recruited the help of the assistance of a consultant, because we wanted to make sure we were doing it the proper way and try to minimize that
That
loss.
loss.
Well, I think typically, I think if you're gonna go at it and say to make money, I believe you're already on the wrong foot. I mean, it has to be some, as hard as it is to understand.
Quality of
it-
life.
Yeah, it's not
That's what
about,
they basically said, it's a quality of life
Yeah.
issue, we need to have this for the community.
Yeah.
like the arena.
And we got to
Yeah.
the point where we did an RFP
Well,
for
I mean-
design and construction. So we did, we got the RFP, we had selected the firms, and then that's where everything stopped. So we've gotten to a certain point, we've talked to, key players in the water park, industry. There was interest from them, but yeah, we got all the way there and then it stopped, so.
So I have a question in terms of this, going back to this kind of RFQ or P, not P, Q, putting something out there with the help of a consultant concerning, maybe it's not a splash town, but I don't know, do you own splash towns or what?
He owns, Splash Kingdom.
Okay, got it, okay.
It's a little bigger than a town.
Okay.
I have 5 water parks that I have
Okay.
built from nothing and own, and then we operate about 10 to 12 others for either cities or private owners or.
So what would, I think the question would be is there a possibility of working with him with a group, he probably knows people who might be interested
We
in
would
doing a
look, I mean, of
public-private
course, we would
partnership.
look at every opportunity, I mean, we don't,
Yeah.
we don't wanna fund
I mean,
100% if we don't have to.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then maybe those people also have a interest in, obviously, the management of a facility, do you think you could find a manager for a facility like this that would be interested
As
in
far
doing
as,
They,
as far as a management company
Yeah.
like us,
They-
that's
yeah,
what we
they are
do.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we-
they
we
would
would
be
place-
interested in managing this park?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's part of their proposal, is to.
They
depending how-
could,
no,
they could.
Yeah.
They could.
But after
we-
they do their studies, right?
Yeah, so we didn't get to that, this
Got
is, I guess, this was step one.
Got it.
Step two was contracting or the RFP for the design and construction. And step three was the management. So we didn't get to the step three. We got to step one, 0.5, which is this, because as Johnny mentioned, we still had like a portion to go, and then we did step 2, and step 3 would be now, let's find the management, obviously we have them that will know the project to the T. Now, something that I wanna mention is, this design also, joining together with Whitewater, they worked on
Whitewater.
this design, and they're one of the key players in the industry also. So this design is well thought, and we kept seeing other designs at the water park conference, and then sitting with them, we're like, oh, okay, we see the detail.
If I can just kind of add to, as far as the management company, so right now, on the sports complex, we hired a consultant for the design and of the complex. That was phase 1 of the consultant. Council said, let's just hire him for that. We are now in the process for phase 2, which us 3 have to meet with the same company, if we can come to a contract for them to run the facility. The same company that did the design, the company, Sports Management Facilities, I think it's the name, right? Sports Management Facilities did the design with the they were consultants for that. Now we have to meet to see if we're gonna go with them as far as the management company. Like you're talking about, like ASM is running Unit Trade so that's now we're in negotiations because we plan to open April 2025. So, and that's gonna be, we're working with them as far as the numbers and see what it's gonna cost us to run, so. So that's kind of where I think if I answered your question, kind of what we're doing right now with the sports facility.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Other comments or
We're
questions?
kind of an ASM of water parks.
There you go.
So our goal would be that we would manage it to where you would have the best results. Whether it is, we can break even, we can make a little money, or we make it as least painful as possible if we know we're going into it with this is a quality of life. It's also a tax revenue generator for the rest of the city as people are coming in, they're buying gas, they're eating in restaurants, things like that. So you're bringing that quality of life, you're hopefully bringing other people to live there. So it is a decision on a city, do you want that? But the way we manage it is to manage at your goals and what are we trying to do. And we manage things well. There's a lot of guys that can, but we'll manage things well to get the best results that you can get for this facility if we were to manage it for you, if we get to that point.
So I have a question, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say,
Yeah, okay.
more questions,
One
yes.
last question on,
More
so
questions.
you do your economic impact study on what it can generate for the city. Do you do that on your own, or what kind of software do you use, or do you use another company, or how do you come up with those numbers?
There's an industry leader in that. His name is David Sangri. He does feasibility and impact studies. In my
David Sangri.
personal parks, I will do. His name's David Sangri.
How do you spell his last name?
Sangree. He's, if you meet him, and some of the guys may have met him at the show, he is like a walking calculator. That's all, he is a numbers guy. But he's the industry leader on what amusements, hotel, his company name is Hotel Leisure Advisors. And so he does feasibility studies and impact fees and those kind of things. But in dealing with being on an economic development committee and those kind of things over the years and doing this, one of the schools of thought is that a dollar spent in a town for an amusement or a water park a lot of times turns 7 times in your community. So that is a huge impact. So if we're going to generate $3 million at a water park, you think about a lot of it's going to staffing, which are local folks, and they're going to spend it on gas, food, going to the movies, etc. Those folks are going to continue to spend that in town as well. So we're getting folks from outside of Laredo to come in and go to these baseball fields and amusements and water parks, and those dollars are going to spend hopefully 7 times again in your community. So it does make a big impact when you start getting that tourism in there.
Any other questions?
I have a question on the operating of the 4.5. Does that cover the debt payment? Is that just operations?
Yeah, that was the question she asked a while ago as
Yes,
well.
I think that's what she was asking.
It doesn't account for the debt service,
Okay, gotcha.
but also I couldn't tell you, there's $1 million swing in there too, that's like, once I know what we'd actually be operating, is it 3.5? Or with the 4 to 4.5, would that cover debt service also? And then of course it depends on what is your debt or bond service as well, so, that's operational.
Thank you.
City of Baytown's water park. City of Baytown's water park is about this size, might be slightly smaller. It cost them $4.2 million. They do a $3.9 million budget. I don't know if I can share that. I'm giving you round numbers. 3.9 million. But then what we do for them also, since we take over them not having to deal with 400 seasonal staff members with their HR department. Their financial team doesn't have to do that. We do all that from a management standpoint. So, that alone gets them freed up. Their HR department just thinks it's the greatest thing ever because they're not built to deal with 300 seasonal teenage employees, and that's what we do. And so, anyway, so that alone gives them some savings that they're excited about.
So what is the ticket price at Baytown?
Baytown?
At Baytown, they actually made kind of what I would think is not a very smart move a couple years ago. They went from high 20s, like $27 to like a $45 ticket. It really cratered their attendance. That wasn't a smart move for them to do. They were running
So the
around
low side is
125,000, 130,000 people.
Per person?
High 20s, yeah.
And they went down to closer to 90,000 people.
That's
You
what
gotta
we
know what
do
your
figure.
market is, and you can't just shock them with a 40% increase on a ticket price, so. But there are some interesting things you can do. You could charge more on a weekend because it's busier, it's a high time, or you could discount on Mondays and Tuesdays to get folks to come and have a different opportunity for folks that, you've got some ticket price constraints, and we can do some pricing on weekdays where we know we've got more room.
And there's also, we saw it with other attractions where locals pay a little bit less and visitors pay a little bit more. So that can also be accounted, like, that can also be included in that calculation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a local that, either buys their season pass through showing that they have a local water bill or, something that shows that they're a Laredo citizen, is a great benefit to those guys. And then you've got your people that are coming from out of town that are paying full price tickets or buying tickets online, et cetera.
A lot of options.
Yeah, it can be tailored, cause we know that
But that's
the community.
per person, so
Yeah.
So family affords over $100 just to get in.
Just.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought-
And that's where,
That's
you
right,
guys
just to get it.
decide if you're wanting to, how much are you wanting to subsidize for the, for the local?
That
and
determines-
what your end goal is.
If we wanna make money,
Oh,
or if
correct,
it's a
yeah.
quality of life,
Yeah.
attraction.
Yeah.
I mean, we could build a park like this and you guys say, hey, we're okay with losing $2 million a year, and you could price it where you wanted to for local, and it'd be totally packed, but you'd wanna pick somewhere in the middle there to kind of see what you're wanting to do. So, but any of it would be possible, depending on what you guys wanna do as far as we trying to break even, or we trying to totally lean into quality of life.
All right, other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Johnny, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your time.
Thank you.
Good
Appreciate
information.
Good to see you. Have a great evening.
Good
Thank
info,
you, too.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye.
See, John, you're gonna be able to.
Are we going to Zoom this as well?
You're welcome to hear us, but,
We're not exciting.
yeah.
Are we gonna Zoom the presentation or just?
Yours?
Just present it.
Yeah.
You can close the Zoom.
You can close-
I guess.
Are you next, John?
Yes.
Just don't close the recording.
Very good.
No.
Yeah, there's some sweet bread over there and all the eats before Joe finishes it. It's over there.
What are they from 10:30 in the morning?
That was from Halloween last year, so no.
How many meetings ago?
I had a quick question, Mr. Essen.
Yes, ma'am?
I wasn't here last meeting, I'm sorry, and I'll try to catch up. I just had one question on the synthetic turf. You know, I think there's a lot of studies finding PFAS, the forever chemicals, in synthetic turf, and, I mean, I was just curious, you know, I know how hard it is to maintain grass in Laredo and costs to do that in water, but I just wanted to, and I can bring more information next time, just that, you know, it's a growing concern, this, you know, PFAS and all of these studies now that they're finding in synthetic turf.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll bring more info
Sure.
next time, so, and I mean, I understand the other side, like how hard it is to maintain something usable, with manpower and water, but I was just curious if there's not synthetic turf, like the option.
Doesn't use that.
Like the
That
option, the option or alternative.
Yeah, I could look into it. You give me that information,
I will.
I'll be more than glad to.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's the first time I hear about it, you know, so, yeah, well, we can visit with the company and ask them that.
okay.
Maybe it's cheaper.
If it's
healthier,
better
probably
for you.
more-
Exactly, right, organic is more expensive.
Sounds more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Thank you,
I'll bring
Tricia.
I'll bring some info for JJ.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Porter.
So, I was gonna go over the riparian improvements, which was one of the items that, this committee's tasked with. And so I was just gonna go through what we've already done and then some of the options that we have moving forward. So the current projects, we've got a lot of projects along the river. We've got the Vega Master Plan that we completed in 2008, River Vega Hike and Bike, Riverbend Ecosystem, Riverbend Hike and Bike, the Zacate Creek Orlap Project, the Zacate Creek Ecosystem Restoration, Chacon Creek Hike and Bike, and then the Chacon Flood Control, and then future projects is the Zacate to Chacon Hike and Bike, and then of course the Binational Park. And the Vega Master Plan we completed in 2008. It was for a linear system of parks from the railroad bridge to the Tex-Mex rail yard. And this one also included a promenade, a conference center, and it was priced out at $72 million back in 2008. So I'm sure that's gone up considerably. The River Vega Hike and Bike, we got a grant from TxDOT, and so we're gonna have a trail from Anna Baseball all the way down to Dovalina Elementary, so it's gonna connect the neighborhood to the Water Museum, and allow for people in this neighborhood to move north and south without having to use sidewalks along the Anna Street. And this one should be, we're ready to let. It's just a matter of working with TxDOT because we put this project in 2025, so we gotta move that let date up, and then we'll go out for letting. And it's about 2.4 of improvements. Riverbend Ecosystem is a $4.4 million project that we did with the Corps of Engineers, and so we did ecosystem enhancements and invasive species removal in the Riverbend area that's just south of LC. As a continuation of that, we wanted to have a visitor center. There's a lot of history in this area, so we can showcase some of the history, and then also have trails, and then also some bird watching opportunities where we're gonna have like the binoculars that, like in New York, you put a quarter in, although we won't charge, but we'll have binoculars, mounted binoculars
No
for,
charge?
for people to, it's probably not worth charging people 25 cents. And so that actually, we had done the design, we were gonna move forward, but Economic Department, put this grant out with Parks and Wildlife, and we got funded, so, we are gonna go out for bid again. We had gone out for bids, and nobody submitted, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So you have to redo it?
yeah, we're gonna redo it, and then maybe, I think we're gonna go with, like a clearinghouse, construction clearinghouse. I mean, maybe we can get somebody, outside of Laredo. Because, yeah, my understanding is, although no contractors told me this, but apparently their bonding capacity
It is very
is maxed out, and
That's-
so,
Yeah, it happened in
Yeah.
downtown as well.
so I think, yeah,
So
we need to
We're on
start,
street still.
you know, we do have a time frame that we have to meet with the funding agency, so, yeah, I think we're gonna have to put it out, to out-of-town contractors. The Zacate Creek Orlap project, which is Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Grant, again, Economic Development, submitted for this it was through Parks and Wildlife, but ultimately funded by the National Park Service. We did get the grant, and so that's a $7.6 million project, and it's pretty much going to, fund improvements from, Market Street South in Zacate Creek. And so right now we're finishing up the environmental review. From there, we'll go to, RFQs for design, and then, you know, in a couple of years or a year or so, be able to go out for bids on this.
one of only 14 selected from across
Yes.
the country.
Yeah, highly competitive bid.
The only
Laredo
one
should
from
be very
Texas.
proud of the
Yeah.
fact that we got this one. We also got a $1 million congressional appropriation or earmark, for habitat restoration in Zacate. And so we
I'm
just
sorry, but it's
amended
hard
our.
to believe that it's so beautiful. You go, is that Laredo?
I know, it's,
You
it
know,
is
it's
really
so
stunning.
beautiful.
It is.
So a lot of the stream bank restoration, habitat will fund through this grant. And so we've got our final meeting final reading on Monday, and so then we'll move forward with RFQs to find a firm to do the actual work,
John,
or design.
John, quick question. Is that 1 million gonna get paired together with the ORLAP grant, or are they gonna be kept very separate?
So, I mean, that's gonna be a challenge, because with the ORLAP grant, they said we had to certify that we're not using funding from another federal source. So,
Okay.
I think we could get around that maybe by having, or let's certainly not put the habitat restoration in the ORLAP, because then that would be duplication, I think. But yeah, we need to look at that one. Chacon Hike and Bike, we pretty much have a complete system, from Eastwood Park all the way to the mouth. We've got the final phase, which is from Clark to 359. We're running through some, easement issues with the landowner, but, you know, I think everybody agrees it's just a matter of turning that into a document. But that'll be the final stretch.
John,
This
is-
was
sorry.
3.3 million.
Is that when the Army Corps of Engineers or separate,
No,
or different?
separate. Yeah, this was another earmark that we got back, a long time ago.
So, but these are funded projects.
These are funded projects, just to give the committee an idea on what we've already done, and.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
This is the flood control, and so this is, we've been working with the Corps for about 20+ years. And part of that is due to, originally this was authorized in an award bill. I don't remember which year it was, but we were moving forward with the Corps. They were doing all the the studies, and then an attorney somewhere, I don't mean to call out attorneys, but that's who did it, looked at the Word bill and said, oh, this, you don't have authorization. And it's because somebody, it was a typo. It was funding a project, flood control project, in Chacon Creek, Laredo, Texas, which is downstream of Falcon Dam. And because the word downstream was put in there, of course, the intent was upstream, because no place exists, that killed it. And so we had a choice, either wait for another water bill, or there is a section 203 under the existing water bill at the time, to where the city could, the non-federal entity could complete the feasibility study and then submit for approval, which we did get in 2020. And so it is approved, although there are some elements that still need to be hashed out with the federal government. And so that's called a review report, and so that's what we're working on right now. And hopefully we'll finish this year, maybe early next year, and then we can actually go into construction. And this started off at a $52 million project, but because of the price increases, it's right now estimated at $166 million.
Wow.
But I think those are OMB numbers, and I think that's a little on the high side, but it's certainly over 100 million.
So this all happened with the Army, with the Army Corps of Engineers. Okay, and, the work, once all this stuff gets ironed out with the writing and all that, it should.
Well, that was
begin-
already fixed in 2020.
Okay, okay, so what is I just, there was a lot of, like, number word salad that I
Yeah.
didn't understand, so section 203, what is that?
That was a section in a previous Word bill, I think 1986.
Oh, water bill, so it's not
Yeah,
like.
water bill, yeah. And when I say Word, it's Water Resource and Development Act, I think is what it stands for. But yeah, federal law. And there was a section in, I think, the 86 bill that talked about a non-federal entity doing the feasibility study. And so that's what we used, since we were in this limbo with the Corps and Congress, because they, we pulled the trigger on that in 2016, and so they had a Word bill in 2014 where it wasn't resolved, and so we didn't know when there was gonna be another one, and so we just moved forward with that.
And so what work will be done under the term flood control?
Mainly buyouts, I think like 72 structures that are actually in the floodway, mainly in the Villa del Sol area, so they'll do buyouts in, buy people's homes.
Like raise the whole, yeah.
No, because they looked at that, they actually looked at engineered controls versus buyouts, and the return on the ROI was much better for buyout. It was just cheaper to buy people's homes than to try and protect them. And so that's the route that we went. And then a lot of ecosystem restoration, and then with that, since we're buying properties and we're gonna demo those homes, but that will open up a lot of area for recreation activities.
And so who's doing the ecosystem restoration, them or the city, or how does that work?
80%, Corps is paying 80% of it. My understanding that this will be locally let is what it looks like, so, the city will do a lot of the design, all those other things, but, the federal government will pay 80%, and we're on the hook for 20, and then on recreation, it's 50-50.
Okay. Cause I kept understanding that the Army Corps of Engineers was doing the design of this.
There was a lot of back and forth on this 203 that I mentioned.
Yeah.
No other city had ever gone that route before. So when we went that route, yeah, the Corps kind of freaked out because they said, we don't even have policy on how to handle this, because
Okay.
nobody's ever done this before.
I see.
There's been a couple of cities that have since gone that route, I think, a city out of California, and I think one in Florida. So they finally came out with, you know, how, their guidance on how they're gonna handle that. And so, it does look like this is gonna be more of a local project and, than a Corps doing the actual work.
And John, the 20% that the city has to fund, is that already, allocated and earmarked in a pot or not yet?
No. So, I mean, that's something for the committee to
Oh,
discuss, you
got
know,
it, got it.
would this be a, you know, this bond issuance be, should there might be money for this, matching funds? I was gonna put this project in the regional flood control plan, which we're in region 15, and that would open up, state monies, not, you know, monies from the state. I think Abbott had put $1 billion or so in, water and flood control projects, and so, like, obviously, we're gonna try and go after those monies, but, yeah, the 35 million, whatever it is, yeah.
Would
you
be
know.
would be the 20%, about 35 million?
Well, with the 20 and then the 50-50, I think it works out to be like 35, 40 million, yeah.
One last question, sorry, John, just to make sure I understand. So for this one, the 20% is for this section 203 part, and then the recreation 50-50, what specifically is that?
Just creating more park space in Chacon Creek.
Oh.
Yeah.
All still tied to the same,
It's all still tied to this project, yeah.
got it.
And this is approved already, or not yet until the federal government does
We're
something?
close.
Okay.
It was supposed to be approved in April, and then that turned to September,
Mhm.
and then maybe by December, but I doubt that. And so probably sometime next year.
Okay. And the approval, John, is that Army Corps of Engineers, or is that like a congressional thing?
It goes back to the Corps after they say, okay, you met these deficiencies. Like one of them was, on our real estate, calculations on the buyouts, they said that wasn't up to snuff. But that really wasn't something that we could complete, because under statute, it says only the Corps of Engineers can do that. And so there was this area where, yeah, we didn't, you know, we did some ballparks, like, well, you know, here's what the Corps' numbers were in 2012, and so based on inflation and cost of living, you know, we ballparked it. But yeah, did we use what they used to come up with real estate costs? No, and nor could we if we wanted to, because it you know, it says that they need to come up with that. So, you know, there were things like that needed to be completed. And how we were able to complete that is we ended up doing an agreement with the Corps where it was for $1 million to finish the work, and then they'll pay 50%, and the city's paying 50%. And so that's those deficiencies are being worked out. But yeah, once that gets complete, it goes through their review, internal review, then it will go to the Corps, the main guy, and then after he signs off on it, then it goes to Office of Management and Budget,
Okay.
and then
Got it.
they put in their 2 cents, and then it ultimately would then go to Congress, and then Congress would have to fund it.
Wow.
And so I mean, you know, it's worth talking about, but quite frankly, I mean, when people call me and say, when are you gonna buy out my house? I said, well, I said, I doubt, maybe in 5 years we're gonna start doing that. I don't see us moving on this,
Okay.
just because of
So how does
how
this
slow
affect the
Congress
bond?
works.
This is not really something that.
This
would
is not
go-
something,
that would go with
but
this
it should certainly be,
referendum. Okay.
it should be in the back of everybody's mind. I mean, that's up to the committee, but I don't think that we would, I don't think we're gonna start moving on this
Okay,
Okay,
for another, 5 years.
okay.
okay, so. Thank you.
Any questions? That's it.
Although we may need,
Is
maybe a
this-
referendum in 5 years to do something.
But still, so it continues,
And then here was another, we have a conceptual design report. And this was a project to connect, mainly Zacate Creek to Chacon Creek, but we also have some gaps in the hike and bike trail along, the riverfront in downtown, which would ultimately, I think, connect to the river bend. And so, this one is not funded, but it's, 2016, it was 3.5 million.
Okay.
So, I don't know, maybe we add another million onto that.
So I thought riparian meant like making sure of the flood and this and that and species and all of that. Isn't that what that, I mean, can you not?
Well, since it's the Rio Grande, it's in the jurisdiction of IBWC, and so when you actually talk about like flood control and stuff, I put a lot of these projects because obviously there's an element of, reducing erosion, those type of things. When you have people out there, there's a higher value placed on the river, or creeks, and so, obviously, that's an element of that, but,
John, the Border Patrol, how they have their River Road project, and I know we asked them about that this morning, but would these be complementary to each other, or how do you envision that, especially from Zacate down to Chacon, like that stretch for sure?
well, that was part of what we talked about, to where we have, we still own that, so we would still use that. Could that road be used in lieu of this? Sure.
Oh.
I don't know, if there's a,
I think the issue with the Border Patrol road, and it had come up at council and was, and I don't know what happened with that licensing agreement, but the issue was they didn't want public access. And there was a lot of pushback from the community about that. Anyways,
it ultimately came out to where we keep public access.
Oh, good. Okay. It's a beautiful area. I do the Christmas bird count there every year with Montemucho Audubon Society and Metoca, that segment every time, and it's so beautiful, really beautiful.
And then, obviously, the binational, which I think, Viviana and Tricia probably have more knowledge of than I do, but, conceptual plan for a binational riverfront about 6 miles from Jefferson Water Treatment to Chacon. There's just a concept of this. There's no engineering designs, anything like that. But that's obviously been a project that has come up. And I think some of the other projects I talked about are certainly part of that and complement that, but, what was the last estimate on this thing? I heard
But
100, I heard 500.
No, that's where there's a lot of misconceptions in the community about this, because there's never been formal, like, numbers studied or done, and when this was presented way back, like, $200 million was like a totally reimagined Bridge 1, like a completely new double-decker Bridge 1, and that was just a number that was thrown out, and then kind of thrown into like just a very rough estimate of costs that have never really been.
That the ambassador one.
Yes.
He
Right.
wanted, I didn't care how let's not call it ballpark, let's call it like trying to reach Pluto.
Right.
You know?
Because there was no
Okay.
real like study done on costs. It was like you had 3 weeks to put together a vision concept. Like that was the timeline to work with for the whole thing, so there's never been like a feasibility study on costs or anything.
Yeah.
Well, and there's already, well, now, even since then, there's more than 40 projects that exist on this already, including some of the ones you just talked about, you know, so it's about interconnecting those
Right.
things rather than saying all of this is new.
Right.
And so a lot of that got, you know, so I mean, you know, I'm just, from the perspective of what I understood, like the riparian, how is that, I mean, when you talk about erosion control, right, is that an enhancement? It's kind of the same question I had about, you know,
Building.
this, you know, an operational building that needs to be dealt with, you know. What is your assessment on the erosion problems that we have?
I mean, I think, look at all of our other hike and bike trails, and you know, we've really done a lot of hike and bike trails in watersheds, and I think that, yeah, there are erosion areas, but I think that the fact that those have become public parks, you know, we've dealt with those. I mean, that's the nature of a creek or a river. They're always gonna erode and, you know, deposit sediment, and that just, but I think, yeah, I mean, it's a part of.
Well, can you think of like an area, hey, there used to be an area like that was eroding really badly along Water Street, or is it Pedregal? I forget, it's the one, or Ventura, the one way next to the river. That was like, that would always have an erosion, I guess it was an outlet and it was starting to, like, are there places like that say you say, hey, this has to get repaired or it's just gonna get.
Father Magnum will have
Yeah.
a section out of there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's tons of
There's
places.
places, like specific places where, right, do we ever, was it dredge the river, do we ever?
No.
Never.
Yeah, the only dredging, I think, the city had to get a permit was right in front of El Pico.
Well, they're thinking of doing the Casablanca, no, also. I know.
Yeah,
recently
they've
heard
thrown that
something.
around for years.
Yeah.
Dredging?
Yeah, I recently heard that. We're looking to see
What do you think
funding.
about dredging? Is that a dredging?
Yeah, I remember, I think Nuevo Laredo, John or Sila got after the 2010 flood, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe, I need to check with Negrete, cause he had explained it. And so they were able, but I think it was to remove like massive like debris, but I don't know if that was dredging.
Was that the old bridge? I remember when they
Yes,
moved,
yes.
removed the old bridge, yeah.
Yeah, I need to ask him. But on the erosion control this morning, I was out there with Parks and Border Patrol and Dr. Vaughn and Dr. Amede, and we looked at a section from the Water Museum down to, just past the Laredo College North Wall, like that stretch. And so, you know, it's taken a long time, but there's opportunities and things look good. With Border Patrol, they're finally talking in words like selective clearing rather than complete clearing. And so that's very positive, but it does take a lot of maintenance and like commitment to maintenance. But it's really important to do it right because it's fine river silt and so prone to erosion there, and which impacts so many things, you know, the stormwater runoff filtration and all sorts of things. But I think there's something to build off there. It sounded positive today, you know, so.
So what do you think, do you think that, what is your take on what needs to be in a referendum
I mean,
on this?
and
On
this is just my
riparian.
personal
On the
opinion, but
riparian.
I think that I like how other cities have done it to where they say, you know, go to the voters and ask for X, pick your number, right? But for a very general term, for more park space, or more walking trails, or something like that. And so it's not tied to a specific area. It's general, and when, you know, we've got grants that pop up that we need
That makes sense.
to match for, and, you know, I know that, you know, there's a number of council members that have, you know, Councilman King, he wants to connect, North Central to the 177 acres or whatever that is on the west side. I mean, that's a project that could be funded. You know, there's all these improvements to, connect, Independence Hills to Las Misiones and that area. And if it's just very general, then I think that allows for the city to jump on these projects as opposed to, you know, we wanna fund this specific project.
Yes, that's a
That's
good
my thought.
point.
I think it's, generality is good.
To not box you in to
Yeah.
like something really, you know.
And, yeah. Okay,
And
that's
it's
a
the
good
way how you
suggestion.
word the bond, it's how you word it?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these cities, I mean, Pflugerville had a big bond. Round Rock had a big bond, Dallas had a big bond. You know, park space and park improvements and, you know, walking trails, hiking bike trails, like they all passed. You know, they're popular, that's what people like. Now, when you start getting into certain specific projects, that's when I think you enter, you put a poison pill in there, and they're gonna say, no.
Right, it could
And
keep-
I'll throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Yes.
because of this specific thing, but.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Is that your program?
That's all I've got.
Thank you.
John,
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So, for tonight, that's really what we had, but we also wanted to give you a quick tour inside the facility. Since tomorrow's Halloween, you know, we got
Goblins and spooks.
some scary stuff to look at.
It's
Tell us
ready.
Thank you, Tricia. Appreciate it. So if y'all,
We just walk down the
Yeah,
hall,
just-
take it to the.
We'll move
to
to
the backyard.
adjourn first.
yeah, we
formalize
can do
it.
that. Yeah, appreciate your time.
Second,
All right,
did you move?
I guess I did.
Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor, aye.
Yeah. I-
Meeting is adjourned, now we can continue with our,
Thank you
just to
guys.
close the meeting officially.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.